All right, if you're a longtime viewer or listener to Washington Watch, you'll know that we've been drawing attention to state legislation that's aimed at protecting minors from gender mutilation. And the first state to pass such a law actually was Arkansas. They did so about 2 years ago. In fact, they really started what's going to be known as the SAFE Act, Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act. It's going to be known as the SAFE Act. Well, as I discussed yesterday, a federal judge struck down that law, literally ignoring science, ignoring the biological reality of the difference between men and women. But that's the bad news. But the good news is that there is a growing number of Americans who are embracing reality, that your sex is the one that you were born with. Well, joining me now to talk about this new survey that's out is Matt Carpenter. He's the director of FRC Action. Matt, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me on, Jody. Great to be with you.
Well, it's my pleasure indeed. Well, listen, tell us about the survey. This is extremely interesting as well as encouraging. What does it say?
Yeah. So this Wednesday, NPR and PBS teamed up for a poll with Marist. Now, Marist is not known as a conservative polling outfit, and they released a survey of 1,300 adults, and they asked them a wide range of questions related to how do you feel about the candidates for president, how do you feel about the direction of the country, the way the president, his performance, and then they threw in a question about how do you think we should define male and female? And this is where it gets interesting, Jody. They found that 61% of Americans agree with the statement that we need to be defining male and female as the biological sex as identified on a person's original birth certificate. And the reason why this is significant, Jody, is because this is actually a 10-point swing from where this was last year, when just 50%, I mean, can you believe it, 50% of people were not clear that we needed to define male and female on the basis of biological sex. So, you know, I was listening to your interview with Macy and Abby, and this thing that had been kind of abstract and academic for a while is starting to settle in for people. They're starting to see the consequences of this ideology. And I think that kind of explains why we see a 10-point swing in the direction of sanity on this issue.
Yeah, great point, Matt. I was looking over some of the results of the survey as well, and that very thing likewise jumped out to me. A 10-point swing is enormous in such a short period of time, and I agree with you. It's people like Riley Gaines and Abby and Macy and so many of these others who are experiencing what they're experiencing, and not to mention what's going on with children and the attack on parents and all of this stuff combined. And people are beginning to say enough is enough. And we're watching this expressed through Target or Bud Light or whoever it may be. People are just kind of saying, they're waking up to reality and saying enough of this nonsense, what is happening in our country. And so that 10-point swing is enormous to me. But this survey is not alone in its findings. And there's what else is going on out there with this?
Well, you know, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, you pointed out the economic impacts of some of these companies that have they've gone over their skis, to put it, I think, a little kindly to them. They've gone fully off the cliff on some of this LGBT promotion stuff during Pride Month. And so you're seeing this economic impact on this as well, where week after week, Bud Light's sales are declining, you know, by double digits. I think their Memorial Day sales were down, I think, around 60%. Target is just seeing tens of billions of dollars evaporate. And let's not forget what happened to Disney World after they picked a fight with the governor of Florida over common sense legislation that just said, hey, let's not have private conversations with other people's children in public schools about controversial topics like gender identity and sexual orientation. And, you know, a lot of this is being driven by parents who are now, for the first time, getting curious about what's being taught to their children. They're going and speaking at school board meetings. It's tough to pinpoint exactly what was the straw that broke the camel's back, Jody, but it really feels like we're kind of getting over the hump and we're starting to kind of see the other side. We're starting to see sanity return. We're starting to see people kind of wake up and realize this is not just some fun ideas that maybe, you know, you can play around on a college campus. There are real world impacts to children, to female athletes. And so people are waking up.
Well, you're the director of FRC Action, and so you've got to likewise, I would think, be seeing how this is going to be impacting things politically. Even I would certainly think this is going to be a major issue for GOP primaries and beyond. Are you seeing that become an issue, a hot topic?
You know, you pointed out earlier, Jody, that 20 states have passed that some version of the SAFE Act, and you don't get to that. You don't get from from Arkansas doing it in 2021 to 20 states 2 years later, unless there's a political party that's willing to put some muscle behind it. And so, yes, I do think the GOP has surveyed the territory. They're maybe ahead of the curve here on this, and they're seeing that there's common sense things that they can do, like protect minors from irreversible, harmful, and frankly experimental cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and surgeries. And I will note, Jody, I was looking in the crosstabs of this poll and kind of the demographic specifics. When you look at younger generations too, you might think this is a generation that has just been soaked in this propaganda for years. They're going to see it, how the left has been portraying it. Well, that's not the case, actually, Jody. 54% of millennials and Gen Zers, who, by the way, showed up in a big time in the 2022 midterms, agree with the idea that the only way to define male and female is this biological sex indicator that we can clearly see is clearly observable at the moment of birth, that we mark on a person's original birth certificate. So really, this is going to be a winner if the Republican Party wants to figure out an issue that's on the front minds of not just parents, but younger generations that are going to be voting for the first time in droves.
Yeah, I really think the left has, like you said, they've gone way over the skis on this. And this is a moral issue. It's a spiritual issue. It's a biblical issue. But it does have political ramifications as well. And, here we're coming to the Road to Majority conference with GOP candidates over the next couple of days. Do you expect this to be a topic there?
I certainly do. I don't know who else is going to be in attendance, but I'm sure that there will be candidates who are going to be talking about this issue. They'll probably be talking about the sports issue that Abby and Macy covered and Riley has been speaking about on Capitol Hill. I'm sure they're going to talk about the transing of minors. I'm sure they're going to be talking about what's going on in our schools. Those issues are near and dear to voters' hearts, and they're in the news right now, and they're frankly winners.
Well, Matt Carpenter, thank you for the incredible work you do at FRC Action. Thank you for coming on Washington Watch this evening, and unfolding this information to us.
Thanks for having me, Jody.